Is Kamala Harris right? Do we have a secured border, or as you see it as an objective journalist, not someone that has political inclinations or perceptions, but as just a journalist looking at facts? Is the border of the United States not only not secure, but is there definitionally an invasion of this country, ma'am?
The border is wide open because we are living under a globalist policy of open borders. So there is no border security to speak of. Weapons are flowing across, drugs are flowing across, people are flowing across, money is flowing across, illicit funds, and so on and so on. I mean, everything that comes with an open border is what's flowing. And the reason it's happening, Steve, it's not just an invasion. It is an invasion, but an invasion that is part of a long-term plan and political ideology to obliterate the sovereignty of this nation and change the way the world looks forever. It's not just America's sovereignty that's on the chopping block. It's sovereignty all over the world. It's just that this is the place that is the light and the guide for the whole world. And so this is the country that has to fall first in order for the other countries to fall. And what I learned from a source who is a very unique source, having infiltrated the globalist cult at the UN level, is that he was in high-level meetings that required a number of security clearances, where they actually discussed the plan to bring 100 million people into the United States in order to pave the way for a regional government of US, Canada, and Mexico. And that was to bring in 100 million people from Latin American countries, together with a strategy of creating these cartels, making life unbearable. It's called a push-pull strategy, where they push all these people out of these countries where it's unbearable living like this, and they pull them into the United States. And then once you reach that critical number of over 100 million in this invasion, they will then propose that, well, for your family and friends back home who need, you need ease of travel, they need a better life, and so on and so on. And we can do all this better with a regional government than we can with a US government. And they will have enough critical mass inside the country in order to effect that policy. That's the globalist plan that we're working towards. But what we're already doing is living under their policy, where they've made the right to migrate a human right, recognized at the UN in 2018, and that now supersedes our sovereign right, thanks to the Biden administration and the open border ideologues who are in this government, who were never asked to be honest about their strategy in the campaign trail, who have bypassed the legislature and are implementing a strategy and a policy that not only did no Americans vote for it, because they weren't even given the opportunity, but most Americans don't support.
If you just look at the statistics, the New York Times said, hey, there's 1 million unauthorized, basically, migrants or illegal aliens here trying to get asylum. But if you go back and look at the numbers, the government admitted there's 13 million, right? There's other people, other commentators, and CIS have done the math. So there's really 30 million illegal aliens have been here. If you look at the difference of the 4.9, we've had Todd Bensman and others from CIS all said, no, the number's probably closer to maybe 7 or 8 now in the first 18 months of the Biden administration. If you add those two top-line numbers, and I'm not saying they're accurate, but maybe directionally, you're already at, you could arguably say you're at 30 or 40 million right now. So when Lara Logan sits there and goes 100 million, and people go, that's impossible, that's a conspiracy theory, where you could argue we're 40% of the way there, ma'am. Why he actually said that they were talking about 100 million over some period of time?
Yep. He was in the meeting. He heard it with his own ears. And, and the strategy then made sense. And that was a couple of years ago, right? That was even before the Biden administration. What they've done since they've got into office, you can see it all around you, is they have escalated these policies, right? They've escalated the implementation. And, there are a number of people in intelligence and others who I talk to who say the plan was that Trump wouldn't exist, right? It would go from 8 years of Obama to 8 years of Hillary to 8 years of another Democrat to never seeing another Republican administration. So if you look at this as a long-term plan over several administrations, in fact, even Democrat and Republican, because both have failed on the national security element of the border, then what you see is that this plan is not very far away, and it's not at all unrealistic in a sense. And then when you look at that and you connect the dots, right? You remember when Chris Matthews he compared Bernie Sanders to the Nazis and to Hitler. And that was in the election campaign. I think it was 2016. And so he was immediately dethroned, right? Because you couldn't have that. You couldn't have that comparison coming from the left because because people would see that it was true. So when that happened and Chris was actually removed, his spokesperson was out everywhere saying that the days of milk white America were over and that the future of America is diverse. And he spoke with the same kind of certainty that people have, for example, when they don't write a concession speech because they know that they've won the election, right? As Hillary Clinton failed to do in 2016. And she was so shocked when she didn't ascend to the throne because they reversed the cheat, right? They saw it coming and reversed the cheat. And I know this from intelligence people who are involved in this and other people who are familiar with what happened then. So when you connect those dots, what you see is here's a guy saying the future of America is diverse, and yet at the same moment, 70% of the American population is still white. So how is he so certain? Well, because there's a plan. That's what you start to see behind all of this. That's what I try to do as an investigative reporter, is not react just emotionally to the fact that Kamala Harris is a complete liar. And it's obvious to anyone with eyes. I mean, Texas is overrun. The reason they're sending, migrants to Martha's Vineyard and so on isn't just to make a point. It's because these towns have gone past capacity, right? The Border Patrol is past capacity. I mean, the number of Border Patrol agents who are experiencing extreme trauma because they've got hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minors crossing that border. Many of them are babies. You tell me that. How are the parents, right? Because remember, unaccompanied minors, aren't they supposed to be reunited with their parents in America who are here without their children, right? This is to rejoin families that have been separated. Well, how are they separated? If they're just babies, what families are they going to? Why are they still in the custody of Health and Human Services months and sometimes even longer later, or in the custody of NGOs? Because what do they love? They love shoving these kids into NGOs and then they disappear, right? And nobody ever knows what happens to them, whether they reach their families or they don't reach their families. And you don't have any reporters who are interested in even asking the question because most of the media is completely captured and just in the tank for the Biden administration, and they're not asking any difficult questions about anything. So if you imagine the impact that this has on your Border Patrol agencies, they're all past capacity. Suicide rates are up and through the roof. And it's the same in the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency. They're not being able to do their job. And what they are seeing is an endless stream of people while terrorists come across, while national security is obliterated. But what they're actually looking at, if you step back from that emotion of the moment, is they are looking at a very carefully crafted strategy that is backed by the most powerful people in this country, some of whose names we know and some of whose names we don't know, and dark money and all the other things that go behind it, protected by layers and layers of deception, masked with the NGOs, that is part of a broader strategy to annihilate not just the sovereignty of this nation, but of every nation on earth, because they seek to have control of the whole globe. And that shouldn't be a shock or conspiracy to anyone, because there's been 40 million movies made about people who wanted to rule the world, right?